It was inevitable. When a judge gave Levinia Woodward, the pretty, clever, posh Oxford student who pleaded guilty to charges including stabbing her boyfriend with a bread knife, a suspended rather than custodial sentence, the headlines were swift and unmerciful. Too clever for jail. Toff, justice. The judge stood accused of letting her off because she was a brilliant medical student with a bright future, even because she was blonde. If this was a tattooed Essex girl from a council estate, people cried, she would be banged up for months. What nonsense! Oh. How can the mob presume to know better than the judge who heard the case and made his decision based on the unique circumstances of the individual defendant and the victim? Levinia Woodward's career and name have already been tarnished enough. She's been suspended from university and has a criminal record. She may be entitled, attractive and gifted, which is annoying, I accept, but even the likes of Levinia Woodward are entitled to justice. In her case, I am more than satisfied that the punishment fits the crime.
I entirely disagree with you.
Good. Bring it on.
Domestic abuse is an incredibly serious thing.
This wasn't domestic abuse. This was girlfriend, boyfriend on a drunken candidate. Carry on, then.
No, please, because this is really... So way too often, and I'm an ambassador for a women's charity that looks after domestic violence, but I know that domestic abuse against men is often not taken seriously enough. How you can tell me that a girl reaching for a bread knife and stabbing her boyfriend is not domestic abuse is beyond me.
I'm not saying it's not domestic abuse. I'm saying she shouldn't be in prison.
So hold on, let me give you an example, and I cannot even believe that I even have an example that's relative to this. But a friend of a friend stabbed her husband in the leg quite a few years ago. He very tragically died, and she got sentenced to 10 years in prison. He died. She never intended to pick up that knife and kill him, but nonetheless, she picked up a knife and she killed him, and she's in prison, and rightly so. You cannot wander around picking up bread knives and stabbing people and expecting not to go to prison. And what my final point is, I do believe that if she was from my estate in Hull, she would be in prison.
I disagree completely. I mean, can I just give a few more facts of the case in case you all and the viewers aren't aware of them? She was found guilty and pleaded guilty to something called unlawful wounding, which is a Section 20 offence. GBH is a Section 18. The judge, there are mitigating and aggravating circumstances in any case.
Unlawful
the judge,
wounding.
Wait a minute.
The judge looked what she was charged with is the problem, isn't it?
Well, the CPS would have thought that that's where they'll secure a conviction.
Yes, and but she'd already pleaded guilty. So this was all about the sentencing of the case.
It was in the tariff. What Rachel said, it's not like the judge has gone completely bonkers. It is within the tariff that he is allowed. It's the lower end of the tariff, but it's not unprecedented.
The judge, the issue here is she is convicted of unlawful wounding. She is not currently studying. Who knows what her future as a surgeon might be, but wait. The judge decided to defer her going to prison for 9 or 10 months. I think it was 10 months. Because prison is a bad option for somebody like her. She was clean, she had beaten her addictions, she was deeply contrite. The boyfriend wanted to take her to hospital. He did, you know, the whole thing, there were so many mitigating circumstances. Prison is not a good solution. If you can avoid sending someone to prison, it's probably a good idea. Especially if this person has a future employment prospects. Why bang her up?
They no longer pose a threat to society.
How wounded do you think this chap was, by the way?
If you pick up a knife and intentionally stab somebody...
She was drunk out of her head.
That's no excuse. That's no excuse. That's no excuse. Let's talk a little bit about...
Don't you think too many people get sent to prison anyway?
Let me just read you some of the words. Some of the words. In handing down the sentence, Judge Ian Pringle QC talked about mitigating features, some of which are perfectly right, not least the fact that she admitted the crime, which is a massive start. But here's something. Thirdly, come to that one. While you are clearly a highly intelligent individual, you had an immaturity about you which was not commensurate for someone of your age. I'm sorry, I thought justice was blind. I thought it doesn't make a blind bit of difference whether you're educated at Oxbridge or whether you left school at 14 with no qualifications. This is a case of domestic abuse. This is a woman who had been taking illegal substances and then decided to stab her boyfriend, throw a jam jar at him and throw his computer at him, and then also cut his fingers as well. It is fortunate that the knife didn't go elsewhere. I put it to you, hardly surprising, is it, Rachel Johnson, that you're supporting someone who's an intelligent, attractive and gifted blonde who was educated at Oxford. I wonder who we're thinking of. I wonder who we're thinking of there. If that had been a girl, and as the Sun newspaper found out, a similar case involving a young woman who's a supermarket worker from Gateshead, similar, obviously not absolutely identical, 18 months in jail.
But Nick, maybe the argument is the other way around, that actually they shouldn't have sent her to jail. The truth is, in this country, we're spending vastly too many people to jail. We don't rehabilitate people in jail. They're much more likely to come out and
Greg, if
commit further crimes.
She was on the right path. Why send her to prison where she's going to...
Perhaps Dr Shipman was on the right path.
No, come on. No, you're going way over the top.
You really
what do you expect?
Well, do you? But I mean, once you start bringing in Dr Shipman, you've only got Hitler to go. And you're there.
And then you've lost the argument.
Yeah,
do you honestly believe that?
No, I believe we are sending far too many people in this country to prison. And I think we should be looking and saying, what is the chances of them reoffending? And if the chance is not high, then they ought to do something.
She did it because she's drunk. What happens the next time she gets drunk?
She's not clean. Michelle, Rachel, when you
sent her to prison riddled with drugs.
Rachel, when you first started the debate, I completely was on the same side as Greg, as Nick and Michelle, and now I'm on the side of you and Greg, because I think actually the problem is we're sending far too many people to prison, and actually the issue here is the justice that was served for her should also be available for people from lower class backgrounds, and we know at the moment it isn't. So that's what we need to be looking at.
I think the argument here is, where I do agree with you, Nick, is I don't think the kid from the council estate in Essex
have gone to prison either.
Would have got the same treatment.
Never.
Had Lavinia Woodward been Leonard Woodward, he'd have gone down, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Well,
a man would have gone...
but
when I say gone down, gone to jail.
Men are probably much more likely to reoffend than women, you know, according to all the statistics.
So now it's because I think you might reoffend, but I don't think you...
That is one of the things that a judge has to...
If it was a bloke, he'd have gone down.
One of the things a judge has to take into consideration is what is the likelihood of the person reoffending. And in this case, probably very low. So even though I think it's unfair, I think it's unfair because the system is stacked against those who don't come from the same sort of privilege as her.
If we started from a different perspective and said, look, the aim is to send as few people to prison as we can.
Well, OK, what's prison for?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Why would you send this girl to
because, Michelle, I think it's for someone who stabs their partner.
No, wait.
Nick,
hold on. Finish this. What is prison for?
To protect the public?
Yeah.
Send out a message?
Is it a better outcome?
Reform and rehabilitate.
Is it a better outcome than this woman finishes her treatment and goes into the NHS?
So because that girl was at a supermarket, and might not become a heart surgeon, which is this young woman's ambitions, because don't worry about her. She can go to... That's terrible. That's classist. You're being classist, Johnson.
But that's our point. Our point is the problem...
You're being classist.
You're classist.
Nick, our problem is the same level of justice that was served for Lavinia should have been there for this...
Well, we don't know the cases of this woman at Gateshead.
But surely the question you should ask
she wouldn't have the same treatment.
The question you should ask is there any value to society of them going to prison?
But why do we have jails?
Because we have jails because we have this led by certain newspapers and certain politicians over a period of time. We believe that that everybody who does anything wrong should be punished by going to prison.
Throw away the key, says
I never said that. I don't think anyone that does anything wrong should go to prison. But I do think if you pick up a knife and you deliberately stab somebody, then I'm sorry, but that should be the consequence of that.
May it please the court.